Are you learning how to use Python to interact with your Mist access point? Well, this series of videos is for you. I will go over some very simple script that will help you to achieve this goal. We will look at the API documentation, go over the code together, and I'll show you a couple of examples. If you like the content, please give this video a like and consider subscribing if you don't want to miss out on any upcoming videos. Thank you very much, and let's get started. So in the previous episode, I showed you how to create a site within a simple script. In this one, I'll show you how to check if a site already exists within your organization, right? What you want to do is, write a simple function that will help you to check if a site already exists. And so as you test your scripts, the script will just check if the site is there. If it's there, it will just, use it. If it's not there, it will create it, okay? So let me show you how we can do that. So first, let's go back to the Mist dashboard. So here, I cleaned up everything. As you can see, I only have one site here. And I will show you the script and show how this will work, okay? So once again, in the script, I have a specific function that I call does site exist, right? And I will call this function within my main function here. In the main function, just like the first episode, I have the three lines that handle my arguments. The arguments for this script are the exact same. So all I'm going to give as an argument to the script will be my config file, where I keep all the information I need to make the API call and to validate the site. And I have my config file here on the right. As you can see, it's a JSON file, and I have an API object giving me all the information I need to make my API call. And here I have the information about the site that I want to validate, okay? Then I unload these configuration into a Python dictionary that I can then use to, go and get the information I need when I need it within my Python script, okay? And then I call this function, does the site exist? And I bring my configs along with me, okay? So let's go and take a look at this function. And here, in order to make sure that a site exists, we will use another API call. We'll do one API call, and this time we'll use the get function, right? Because we're not creating any object. We just want to know or retrieve an information. So to do that, we'll use the get, and we'll pretty much ask for some information from Mist. So we'll send a question to Mist, and Mist will send us some data back, and then we'll analyze the data we'll receive from Mist and define if the site exists or not, okay? And we'll do that based on the name of the site, okay? You could do that based on the, the society if you wanted to, or on the ID. You choose pretty much how you want to do that validation. Here, to make it simple, we did it on the name, okay? So I'll check on all the lists that I have in the organization, and if one site has the same name, I'll just say, okay, it's there. If it's not, I'll say, okay, it's not there, okay? Then what do we need to build our guest API request here? So first we'll need the API URL, right? So to build the API URL here, same as before, what we'll do is we'll use the API Mist URL that I keep in my config, never changes, so I have it here. I can just call it here. Then, as you can see here, you need to add the orgs keyword, right? Then you need to specify your org ID, okay? So here you can see I have my org keyword, and then I specify my org ID that I come and retrieve from my configuration here, API org ID. And then after that, you need to specify sites here, okay? So when you send this information to Mist, so when you send a get API, org ID sites, Mist will send you a list of all your sites, okay? And more than sending the list of all the sites, it will send you the list of all the sites and all of the parameters of these specific sites. So you will get the name, name, country, address, and so on, okay? So what we'll need to make our API call, so we need the API URL, and then we need the headers, right? So when you make your API call, you will need to add a little bit more information, right? You will need to specify what type of content you're expecting to get or you're sending. So in our case, that will be JSON. And you need to specify some sort of authorization here. In our case with Mist, you have to specify a token, and the token will authenticate yourself to Mist. And as you can see here, I have my token here that I can use to authenticate myself. Okay, and once you have this information, API URL and API headers, you can make your call, okay? Notice here that I don't have any data, right? Because I'm not creating a new object, or I'm not updating a new object, I don't need to give any data to Mist. Here I'm just retrieving information, so I'm just asking a question. That's why I only need API URL and the headers, okay? And so here I can build my get API call. So as you can see here, I'm using the get function from the request module, right? The request module is the Python module you can use to build your APIs and send your APIs. Okay, so here I'll send my get API using a specify URL, tagging along my headers, and then I will get the response and put that response into that response element. Okay. Then I'll check the status of that response to make sure that everything went well, make sure that Mist understood my request, I was authorized, and everything went well. And so if everything went well, what I do is I will unload all the data that came along this response into a site object here, okay? And then this site is a Python dictionary, okay? And then I can do a loop on this dictionary and look at each element within that dictionary, right? And here, if you want to be more specific, within that dictionary, what we should get is the list of all the sites, okay? So when I do a loop here, what I do really is I do a loop on each site. So I can go and look parameters for each sites that I have in my organization, right? And then for each site, I will look at the name. I'll say, okay, is the name equal to the name I want to validate here, the name I have in my config, okay? If it's the same, it means that the site already exists, right? And I can print it out. I can say this site already exists, and I can even retrieve the ID here from the response I get, from the API that I just sent, okay? And then I can even return the site ID if I wanted to. And then if I'm done my loop here, and I wasn't able to, find my site, this means that the site doesn't exist, right? So if I'm done my loop, then what I will do is I will, here at the end, I will just print a message that says that, you know what, I haven't found this site. I've circled through all the sites that you have in your organization, didn't find this site, so it means that this site doesn't exist, and I print out this message saying that this site doesn't exist. Okay, so that's pretty much it. So just to recap, what we do here is one API call. It's a get API call. So we build our URL. We need this one in this case to retrieve all the sites we have in a specific organization. Then we unload that data into a Python dictionary, and we do a loop on all these sites, and we check if one of the site names matches the site we want to validate. If it does, the site exists. If it doesn't, the site doesn't exist. Okay? So let's take a look at it and let's try it out. So here in my config file, I want to check if this site, SemFio Dijon FR, exists or not. If you recall from the beginning of the video, I don't have the site here. So if I run it, if I run my script, I should get a message saying that, this site doesn't exist. So let's try it out. I'm going to go back to my terminal here, and I have, the Python script, and I have the config file here. So to execute the script, very easy. I use Python, then I call the script, and I give the config as an argument. It's going to make the API call, and here, as you can see, it's telling me the site doesn't exist in your organization. Okay? Now, let me go back and modify the name of the site, and I will use this site, the name I have here, SemFio HQ. So I save that config file. I re-execute the script, and here it's telling me that site exists, and here's the ID for that site. Okay? So that's pretty nice. So what I can even do right now is, in the previous episode, I showed you how to create a site. So what we could do is, I can go back, I'll do here, go back to the create site. So here I have my create site Python script. So I can run it again, right? Create site, with the config, and it's going to create this one, the one I created last time, right? And then here I can just, take this name, change it in my configuration here, paste it, and then here I'll go back to my previous script. Does site exist? I run it, right? And since I've just created the site, it should tell me that the site exists, right? And it gives me this ID. And the ID here, you can see, is the same as the ID here. Okay? So now what we can do is we can go back to the script and uncheck the line that will, allow us to show what we get back from Mist, right? As we send our request. Okay, so I've saved my script here, and I'll make some room here, and I'll rerun the same command. And so here you see that we get a whole bunch of data back from, from the Mist system, right? So I can see that I have, a couple of items here. So that means that I have a couple of sites. I have one site here, and here you can see you have a comma, so it means you have a second element, and I have a second element here, okay? So you can see the two elements, my two sites, and you can see, just as in the first episode, you can see the same parameter that you have towards the sites, and the same parameter you can find if you go to the API documentation page here under orgs. You can see up the same parameters here. So as simple as this script will just allow you to check if a specific site exists. It does, it's not anything crazy, but it will be very useful as you work on your Python script and as you create your different sites. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked the video, please give it a like. Consider subscribing if you don't want to miss out on any new videos I will publish in this channel. My name is Francois, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.